So, welcome today to our next Legend series, and I'm very, very pleased to be joined today by Graham Hayden, and definitely an industry legend. Graham, I'm going to shake your hand.
Well, that's
So,
very,
and I'm
very
really
kind of you
pleased
to
you've
say
taken
so.
time out
That's
to come
my
and have a
pleasure.
chat, because today really is all about offering advice to our audience. And I really want to centre today, if we can, please, Graham, around training and education. It's a massive part of getting people excited to come and join the industry, and then when they do join, how do we develop people as well? That's a big part of it. So thank you for coming. So first question, can I just, for the benefit of those that are watching, ask when did you first start in the KBB industry, and which positions did you hold in the jobs that you have done so?
Okay, well, I guess Thorny MI would be the first one around the 1980s, working with brands like Maine and Parkinson Cowan,
Okay.
predominantly on freestanding cooking. But then they introduced these things called built-in
Right.
appliances. Well, I had no idea, no concept, didn't know what they were. We certainly didn't have one in our house. And then I went from Thorn to a company called Colston,
Okay.
who were very famous for tabletop dishwashers.
Okay.
But they just introduced, they were taken over by the Maloney Group in Italy, and the Maloney Group had a concept of introducing built-in appliances into the UK,
Right. Okay.
or Europe, and
So where did
including
built-in
the UK.
appliances originate from originally, Graham? Was it the States first before coming over to the UK?
I don't know. I suppose Germany was a forerunner.
Germany. Yeah. Okay.
Certainly, France wasn't far behind.
Yeah.
American built-in appliances are slightly different because
Of course, they're bigger and different sizing.
different sizes.
Yeah.
But Colston were very keen to work with the Maloney Group, and we used the Colston brand to introduce our first range of built-in appliances, which I didn't understand, but they look very pretty and they look very nice, and the industry really just took off. This was in the 80s.
It's a change of fashion, not having it freestand, putting it behind a door.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very, very fast. It took off, exploded. It just exploded. And
So you were at that point, you were working as what position were you there?
I was sales director for the built-in division of the Ariston brand, but we used Colston as our built-in appliances.
Built-in appliances, yeah.
And then we combined the brands, Colston and Ariston, so it became Ariston Built-in. And I stayed there for 6 years, thoroughly enjoyed it.
How did you become sales director at the early stage, and what were you? Why were you different to become sales director at that time of your career?
Because I was sales director at Thorny
so
MI.
you were poached.
Yes,
as
I
that
was
sales director
poached,
position.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And in those days, I would have to say that you didn't have to do anything brilliant to be successful. And the Italians just loved the way that we were selling a lot of their products, and so they incentivized us and sent us on trips.
Was it through distribution or was it direct?
We started off directly, and then when people didn't pay us,
Oh, right.
we went through distributors,
Okay.
and we had some very good distributors.
Yes.
And we were not the market leader, because in those days, and probably still today, Bosch, Siemens, Neff were major players. But
Yeah.
Ariston was a successful brand,
Mm.
and we did sell a lot of appliances through distributors.
So back then, when you were sort of working with Ariston, can you remember the training that was offered then to the dealer network, and did it involve, Graham, was it just product training, or was it product and sales potentially?
It was product training,
Just product training.
really product training,
Okay.
and it was very important to have the product training because not many people understood. They liked the look, but they didn't really understand how the products worked.
So if you reverse the clock and then you know what you know today, and you were sales director then, do you think you would have encompassed the two together, your product training and sales training potentially?
I think
Soulless
so,
dealers,
yeah.
maybe?
I think we could have done more on the sales side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So you went from there to Ariston, then from Ariston
To Hoover. Hoover wanted to
Okay.
start a built-in division. So I had a great time down at Hoover launching their built-in products.
fantastic brand, of course, isn't it?
Oh, tremendous brand.
So it's the UK's most trusted brand, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Which obviously you helped to create in terms
Oh,
of what you were doing.
that was very nice of you to say so. Thank you very much.
That's not me. So that's what's been written. Okay, then where did the KBSA come in for you then, Graham? 'Cause it's,
Well, the KBSA was starting to get important, certainly the end of the 80s and certainly through the 90s.
yeah. This was the KSA, wasn't it?
It was the KSA, Kitchen
Yeah.
Specialists Association, which was founded primarily because there were so many cowboys. There were, in that time, with the market expanding,
So the boom
exploding,
the boom of fitted kitchens. And,
we had kitchen specialists starting up, closing down, starting up, closing down. And the people that were suffering were the consumers who'd paid deposits, and they were left high and dry.
so
because they
the
didn't
original KSA was about insurance-backed contracts.
Very much.
Okay.
It started out as almost as if it was an insurance company, so that if one of the members of the KSA couldn't fulfill the contract because they went out of business, which, as I say, happened quite a lot in those days, then another member of the KSA would step in, complete the contract, or the KSA would actually give the consumer their money back, their deposit back.
Okay.
And it had a fund which everyone contributed to enable them to pay back to the consumer so that they weren't out of pocket.
So in terms of your advice, then, so could you give any kitchen, bedroom and bathroom retailer any advice about, you know, should they consider being part of some kind of association in today's market? Why would you suggest they should perhaps review that?
I think the KBSA
Yeah.
and other associations have a real role
Yeah.
to play. Obviously I'm biased because I worked for them for 10 years.
You were national chair.
No, I was chief executive for 10 years. For 10
years as chief executive. Okay.
And what I saw during that time was that the members really benefited from being in a group, in an
So a
association.
smaller retailer that needs to network to understand more smart ideas and solutions to running a business, they can network together.
They did, they
Yeah.
did. And we used to hold regional meetings where the members would literally just listen to each other,
Yeah.
listen to each other's problems and actually come up with solutions there and then. So the meeting itself would have some content and some structure, but a lot of the members went along to talk to other members about products, about installation, about issues that they felt they had and they needed some help and support.
Yeah.
And the association really did a fantastic job.
See, I think that's
there.
a powerful statement, that I think if you are a small retailer, you feel partly bigger, don't you? You feel more of a belonging.
Yeah, there's obvious benefits such as buying power through buying groups that you can create, insurance premiums you can get rates on and deals because you are part of a group
Yeah.
that obviously has a bigger buying power than you as a single business.
Yeah.
So we used to offer a range of benefits, including the deposit protection scheme, which meant that consumers
Do you think that's important in today's market, Graham? Deposit
not
backed
as
insurance,
not
as
as
much as perhaps it
important,
was
no.
then when you mentioned about the cowboys and that marketplace.
Nowadays, if you look at consumer protection, you've got credit card protection, debit card protection. In those days, deposits were made by cash or by cheque.
It's a significant difference.
A significant difference. And we modelled the KBSA's deposit protection scheme on APTA, which is pretty relevant in today's today's marketplace. So that if the consumer dealt with a KBSA member, they knew they were protected.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you have so much more protection, quite rightly so.
Right.
And you don't have the level of companies coming in, going out that you did in the 80s.
Okay. So in terms of if you look at your predominant appliance career, do you think the consumer nowadays are gaining in terms of anything different than it was, say, 25 years ago? Is there anything that the consumer's got in the home in terms of specification, for example?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so what are the key things you think that people are buying into?
You have fantastic products now. Fantastic products. You have product innovation that 20 years ago people wouldn't have dreamt about. Hot taps.
Hot taps is a big growth market.
Self-cleaning, pyrolytic ovens, induction hobs. These products weren't around.
So you had a static oven or a fan oven, perhaps, and it was the choice of two.
Or you could have a multi-function, static and fan.
Of course, green was in fashion, wasn't it?
Green,
what
the colour?
Green matching sink and a green oven.
Green,
so,
yes. So
it wouldn't sell today, would it? But it might come back.
It might come back. You watch this space.
Okay. So if you're looking at, let's say, a KBB retailer, could you offer any smart advice to somebody setting up in today's marketplace on how to be successful?
Very much be an expert. Do not come into this marketplace unless you have done your homework, unless you live and breathe the products. You have to know them so well.
It's almost what you're saying there. It's quite interesting. So you'd suggest, rather than being a rookie kitchen and bathroom retailer on a Monday, perhaps work for somebody, learn the marketplace first and become smarter and then do your own business?
Oh, I would think so, yeah. I would. In today's, I know you've got more protection for consumers now, but also you've got more opportunities to get it wrong. So you do have to know your products inside out, and the advice that you give consumers has to be correct. Because if it's not, it'll come back and it'll bite you.
So the knowledge, because there's so many different things you need to know nowadays, you have to be trained by the manufacturers on what you're talking about. And then obviously we're going to come on to training in a bigger way, but I guess, Graham, given you run a very successful training business, that you would obviously recommend training.
I would recommend training.
Customer service training, sales training.
I'm delighted that most manufacturers nowadays allocate funds and support to training.
And there seems to be there's a trend at the minute where a lot of manufacturers are wanting to do more training with their customers.
Yes.
Because the trade press have really picked up on this training and education message, which seems to have got lost a few years ago, but it's very prominent today, isn't it?
I think that quite rightly it's gained prominence. It is very important. A lot of manufacturers will put some serious resources behind product training. I'm not so convinced that the industry understands or gets behind skills training, but certainly product training they're very good on.
Yeah, okay. So have you got like an example where perhaps in the past where you've delivered some skills training to, let's say, an individual, and you've watched them through their career be very, very successful? Can you think of anything where you've said, you know what, I've assisted that person being where they are today, which is testament to training?
Well, yeah, people that come on my training courses are kind enough to actually let me know how they're getting on.
Perfect,
and one of the issues, and it's a key issue, it's understandably a key issue, is a lot of people that come on struggle, or say they struggle, with asking for the business, actually closing the sale.
It's that final point, isn't it?
Yeah, so they're brilliant at presentation, they're brilliant at product, they know everything, but when it comes to actually saying, well, we've got to that point where really I'd like you to get your credit card out or sign here, they say, I don't like that, I don't want to, I'm not a salesperson. Well, I say, well, you are, and I give them some ideas and tips of making it as natural as possible for them to use their personality to ask for the business. And so they go away and they come back on the next level 2 training course and they say, I've tried that out and it worked for me. and here are the results. I've sold X more or Y more. So yes, skills combined with superb, I keep using the word superb product knowledge, but it's got to be that good.
That's good advice. So your advice would be to those that are watching is that, you know, if you are selling products, you need to become an expert, because knowledge is power and is potential sales.
Correct.
Because the customer feeds off what you know.
Absolutely. I give a very simple example that, why would anybody spend £30,000 of their money with you if they didn't think you were an expert?
Yes.
If they didn't think that you had the answers or could find the answers, why would they be that confident in you unless they thought you were a very, very clever expert in the business?
Yes, of course what we're saying is over the years, when we had the static oven or the fan oven option, in green or brown, whatever it might be, compared to all the options you've got now in terms of the appliance software. Of course, kitchens is the same thing, where you were designing in 1,000 base units, and kitchen furniture now is very, very extensive. So you have to understand what you are selling and be better than your competition. That's what we're saying.
We are, because it is competitive, and people do have a lot of choice, and people can scour websites before they even approach
all
you.
Experts,
So for them to come in to see you, they have built up a lot of trust at that stage, and it's down to you to prove that they were right to come in and see you.
Interesting. Okay, so the advice is do your research first if you're looking to set up a kitchen showroom, but actually it might be a good idea to work alongside somebody for a short period of time to understand and learn obviously how they've been successful, to transcribe that into what you're looking to achieve yourself for your own business.
Definitely. It's I'm not an expert kitchen bathroom retailer. It's not my forte, but I admire the really successful guys that have set up their businesses, and when I talk to them, when I look at their businesses, I see how really good they are. They're not just good designers, they're good managers, they're good financial people, they're good salespeople. They combine so many skills, but if they don't have the expertise and the product knowledge, then they're not going to be successful.
Okay, so you've trained a lot of people over the years, so can we put a figure on it, Graham? How many people do you think you've potentially trained? Let's say circa.
Well, I've trained over 1,200 delegates in the last 13 years.
1,200, wow. And is a great question. Is it work better in terms of their learning in their home environment or away from their home environment? Which is the better learning venue?
Away from their home environment.
Right. Okay.
Because they don't have any distractions of day-to-day business going on or telephone calls. If they're out of their environment and you make the environment exciting, fun, then they're going to learn. So you have to deliver a very worthwhile training course, and it has to be very relevant to what they're doing. So they're not really interested in things that they don't do. So I, and I'm sure you do, make sure that the sales examples relate to the industry
and the
that
people
they're
in the room.
Absolutely,
That's so key, isn't it?
Yep.
We've all been on courses before when the person coming in doesn't understand what the people who are learning do and can't give them relevant examples or explanations. So I understand that. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of let's say rewinding the clock a little bit, where you took your inspiration and did that training when you worked for your previous position. So can you remember when you were sales director, say at Arison, for example, where you were actively promoting training and education with your own sales team there? And did you put into play things that you're doing now when you were doing that position?
Oh yes.
So you'd actually have a day out for training?
Yeah.
Right.
I was very fortunate that I started my sales career a bit by chance, but with Procter & Gamble when I was a 19-year-old as a sales merchandiser. And I realised then how much I loved doing what I'm doing.
This is training the retailers selling the products. Yeah.
This was being in sales, but the basics of sales, the process of sales, doesn't change whether you're selling groceries or you're selling built-in ovens.
It's a similar process.
It's a similar process, and so all throughout my career, I've always stuck by the principles that I was taught many years ago, in terms of presenting, planning, preparation, making sure that everything was right, and a lot of the people, the delegates that come on my course, take away from the course the importance of those three: the planning, the preparation, and the presentation. It's basic stuff, but it doesn't matter what you're selling. Those three things you should always be testing yourself, asking yourself, have I done this? Have I done that?
In terms of big question that the trade are asking at the moment is, where do you go for training?
As we said earlier, I think the manufacturers do an excellent job on product training.
Products. Yeah.
And I think they have a vested interest in making sure that people understand their products, the features and the benefits.
Yeah.
But as far as skills training, when I see delegates coming onto my course, I do see the gaps. I do see the fact that they haven't really understood the sales process, how it affects them, how they can use it, how they can get better at it, how they can communicate better. So I think there's a real need for it in all industries. And in our industry, I don't see enough provision. I really don't. I've been running my company for 13 years, thoroughly enjoyed it, but there needs to be a lot more of me's going out, being able to do it. And so I'm glad that you're taking over the mantle. I think it's very important.
I appreciate you saying that. Okay, Graham. So, in terms of, I'm a great believer in training and education, and actually that people do build business. You get good people, they build business. In terms of yourself being over the years a recruiting manager or a director, what advice can you give in terms of how can we research, select and recruit the very, very best people, and how did you do that?
Wow. I'd like to think that when the recruitment process had got down to the stage where I was interviewing people for roles, then I think that I had the necessary skills to be able to work out whether someone was going to be right in the environment that they would be operating. I have to say I got it wrong on occasion as well.
Right. That can be an expensive mistake, but it does go wrong.
It can be. Yeah. I think nowadays recruitment is more sophisticated. There are more filters to make sure that you don't waste your time. But I don't have any more to say on that because it's not my field of expertise. Okay. I feel I could interview someone with a view to seeing whether they were right, but the bit that goes before that is something I'm not sure of.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying there, if I understand you, is that when you meet somebody, based on your experience, you sort of get that feeling that person could be correct based on perhaps your own experience in your career. Yeah. So you're the commonality, I guess. Yeah. So there's no precise science, but it's more the presentation on the day.
There may be a precise science, but I'm not.
So you're more about the presentation on the day and how important that is to make that impression.
Yes, you've obviously got things to build on, like their experience, their CV, what they've done in the past, and the way they answer your questions, and the way they present themselves, and the levels of enthusiasm that they have, and what research they've done.
Well, of course, asking for the order after the interview would be good.
It would be very good, yes.
Getting to that point, okay. So the trade press are very big in terms of should you be a designer or should you be a salesperson? What's your view, Graham?
In answer to your question, you have to nowadays be both. You have to be a sales designer. Designers on their own, fantastic, but everything needs saying. Nothing happens till someone sells something.
Okay, good. Okay. Then looking at how to help people sell things, the marketplace is changing at great knots, and we keep hearing about digital marketing and
Yep.
social media and so forth. Do you remember, Graham, the first website that perhaps you came across or got involved in your previous career, and how important it was then to perhaps how nowadays it's important? Do you remember the transition from
Yeah, I can actually. I can remember being
advertising to digital advertising?
at the KBSA, and we had a number of working groups, and one of the working groups was on social media, but
Like a
particularly
forum, like a working...
yes. So we had
Yeah.
people that went away, worked as a little group, came back to the board,
Yes.
and said, "This is what we've done."
Right.
And we had one specifically for the website,
Just for websites.
for the KBSA website, to see what it could do. And there were a lot of us that didn't understand it, still don't. But when this group came back and they said, "We've created this website, and did you know the KBSA had so many hits and this hit?"
All right.
And
Analytics,
people went,
yeah.
"Wow, that's fantastic."
Of course, what people wanted was leads, wasn't it? They wanted sales leads.
But they did get them.
They did get them, yeah.
Off of
This
the
is pre-GDPR days. And,
yeah, through the KBSA website,
Yeah.
retailers actually got leads sent to them,
Right.
and they were thrilled, understandably, because they were getting some good contacts and some good opportunities, and the cost was minimal.
So your advice there, then, if you think about that, that's the thing that's come to the forefront of your mind is sales leads. Is anybody that's producing digital marketing, think about how they can drive traffic into people's showrooms as a primary focus, really. Incremental customers, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Anyone that comes on my training courses, I look at their website before they turn
You're
up.
doing your research.
Yeah, I do my research. So I look at their website, and when they come along, I find an opportunity to mention something to them about their website, and they look at me as if I'm some kind of magician,
Right.
that I've worked out something. I said, "No, I just looked at your website," and then I give them an opinion about how well I think their website is promoting their business.
From a sales perspective, yeah.
From a sales perspective.
Yeah.
And I can do that being impartial. I can say, how does this grab me?
Yes, as a consumer, yeah.
Yeah, and some of the websites are fantastic,
Right.
and some of the websites don't ask you to do anything.
Right.
They just say,
No call to action.
we're
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Look at us, but don't do anything about it.
So your advice would be, actually, if you're having a fabulous website, that's great, but there needs to be a call to action
Correct.
within that website, which
Correct.
creates that sales lead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of today's market, which some would say is very challenging, obviously you're training retailers. So have you any anecdotal or information in terms of how Brexit is affecting sales in today's market?
For the last 3 years, I've made presentations at various events.
Right.
And the first time I talked about Brexit, in a jokey way, it was quite funny. The second year, it was less joking. The third year, it was just so boring. Yes, it has had an effect.
Right.
It will have an effect until it's sorted. We are, by nature, gloom and doom spread very easily. And so I think that Brexit has been a real bad issue for a lot of retailers. And a lot of people are not moving. A lot of people are not improving. A lot of people are sitting there and saying, "I ain't doing anything until after
That's interesting.
Brexit."
So that's a genuine comment
Oh,
you've
yeah.
heard in your courses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting because for me, listening to retailers and where we are on Brexit, some of the clever retailers, Graham, are using Brexit as a natural close to get the order in early.
Right.
And they're the clever ones. So I would suggest that Brexit is a negative, but also potentially a positive if you
Yeah.
take in a different
Well,
view.
I can understand that opportunity. Yeah, it could be an opportunity
You
to
can
close
guarantee the
it.
price, but you need to order today.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. Okay. So if we can just ask, just to finish off on a little bit of a lighter note in terms of something amusing perhaps that's happened in your career that we can perhaps chuckle about, but equally learn from?
Well, I don't know much. You'd learn much from this. But it certainly was, for me, it was quite a shock and quite amusing. Was that being with the KBSA, one of the really great initiatives that came out by the government, by the CBI, Confederation of British Industry, was to have an association forum. So members, representatives of associations around the country could meet together with the CBI and learn from best practice. So I could talk to you if you were from ABTA, could talk to you if you were the insurers, and we'd say, well, we got this problem, we did this, we did that. And it was really good, and I was able to use that to my advantage. And one day, the guy running the show said, we've got Patricia Hewitt coming along,
Right.
who was the Trade and Industry Minister at the time, and she's going to present to everybody about the American model. So we were all very, very interested, and there must have been 40 or 50 associations represented there. So she did this presentation on the American model, which was to never say die. You know, if you set up a business and you failed, get back on the horse, start again, get back on the horse.
Can do actually.
Can do, do it once, twice, 3 times.
Right.
And we want more of this spirit in the UK. So she finished and she said, any questions? And I said, well, just one. I said, if it's all, I think that's really good. I think that's a fantastic attitude. But, you know, what about in the wake of all these startups and close downs, what about the suppliers, the people that have put money in, the employees? Have you not got some sympathy for them, you know? And she looked at me and she went, next. And I thought,
It's very cold. Yeah.
if I could go through my life where, you know, my directors had said to me, how's sales this week gone? And I'd say, next.
Yeah.
You know,
We'll come back to that, yeah.
it was as if she didn't have to answer the question, so
No.
she didn't answer the question. And whilst I was shocked, I thought it was quite amusing that she took that attitude.
Just dismissed it, yeah.
Dismissed it because she didn't have an answer, so she wasn't going to give an answer, so
Right.
she just wanted on to the next one. But they were very, very good. The CBI were very good with associations. It was a great learning curve for us at the time.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Well, Graham, I'm going to shake your hand because it's been an honour talking
I've
to
really
you,
enjoyed you.
talking today sincerely, particularly
Thank you.
with training and education, and the good work you put into the industry needs to be congratulated as well. So thank you for that. So thank you for listening and to watch our Legend series today. If you've enjoyed it, please share it with your colleagues and friends, and if you'd like to leave a comment, both myself and Graham would be grateful, and hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you real soon with the next Legend series. So thank you very much.